Hey everybody, Akane here. You might recognize me from the Plasticity Discord where I post somewhat frequently and where I'll first be posting this video. So I've been playing around with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and other than being my new boyfriend, he's also helped me code a couple of scripts that are going to make remeshing with Quad Remesher a lot more um, easy if you're coming from Plasticity, and even if you're not actually. But I think the result is a much easier workflow than anything else that exists for guiding quad remesher with materials. So before I get into the nitty gritty, I'm just going to show you kind of what they do. So first, kind of the biggest one, or maybe the most useful for plasticity users, is plasticity faces to materials. So actually you want to make sure you have a slot here first. I need to fix that in future versions, but it's fine. We'll just have this as our base material. And so now what is going to happen is I can grab the corresponding plasticity faces and have them all become groups. Just like that. And if you don't know what's going on here, here's the mesh and plasticity. It's just kind of a simple headphone model. Don't worry about how it fits. It doesn't actually fit a head properly. It was just a sketch. But so we have these faces and plasticity, and the bridge lets us use these for selections. So this is obviously really useful because normally CAD data is a little bit hard to remesh because you don't have those material assignments, and so you'd have to hand select everything, and nothing is really clean enough to do that. But plasticity makes that really easy for us, right? Then I have a second utility, and this one is more general purpose. So it's actually the same utility. This just creates a random material from the selection. The plasticity version, all the plasticity version is doing is calling this select plasticity faces before invoking this. So you can use this for anything. You know, if you're doing like architecture, something you can select, you know, all the wood panels on a wall and materialize them simultaneously and then switch the material. But it does create a brand new material, so that might not actually be ideal. It's mostly for remeshing. So then the final script, so that's two scripts. The final script is to assign materials, random materials by UV islands. And this is something that I was sort of able to do with Zen sets, but it was a very convoluted workflow that still required me to make mesh maps. So this, it's what it says on the tin. I can just take a UV unwrap and create materials randomly. So I'll show you this on a quad sphere so you can kind of see what's going on. Here are seams. I unwrap this. And just to show you, this actually works even if you don't have seams. So if I clear the seams, so long as I have a UV map, because it's using these UV island data, or it's using the UV island IDs. I don't know what the actual underlying data is there, but it's identifying them by UV island rather than seam is the moral of the story. And then we can assign material by UV islands. And look at that, that's spectacular. Now, what this is also going to do is it's going to delete all these slots and every material associated with this mesh that is unique to this mesh that has this naming prefix. So let me show you that in action. You know, we can assign materials, so you can see we have no new materials being generated, no new slots, but we are getting new materials. And just to show you this is working, so you don't accidentally delete your materials, right? So now we have two users on these materials. If I invoke this, it's still going to delete all the slots, but now we have extra materials. And this is just going to protect you from, like, if you were to run this on a mesh that already has some custom materials you've made, God forbid you have like a crazy shader graph going on or something. Or maybe you were just previewing materials on a mesh you were working on before quad remeshing it. This is to guarantee that you're not going to toast that material because it's only going to use this island material prefix. You know, if I were to change this, let me change this. Not the same prefix. Don't worry about spelling. In theory, not the same prefix. You can see we have this material, even though it's only been assigned to this object, it's been retained. So as long as you're not naming anything island material and only leaving it on this object, you're not going to lose your materials. So let's kind of get back here. So now that I've kind of shown you the very, very basics, so we have the, again, the materials by plasticity faces, we have the material by selection, and we have the material by UV. Let's show you how you would actually use these. And just a quick note, I want to point out, because these are functionally the same script, except this one calls the plasticity operator. If you have like something like Pi menu editor, there's really no need to have both of these installed. You can just create that as a macro in Pi menu editor, and that's probably what I'll do in the future for myself, so I don't have superfluous things. But I created this because I know some people aren't going to have Pi menu editor, and they aren't going to know how to create macros. Hold on a second. And actually, while I remember this, I just want to point this out. Let's say you only have one mesh in here. You might not even notice this is something that happens. Notice how I don't have this selected. I can edit enter mode, or I can enter exit edit mode, and I can select faces, but you can see that this isn't active, and if I try to invoke that script, it won't work. All you have to do is make sure that you actually have this selected before entering edit mode. I think this is just like a convenience thing, so that if you only... It'll go into edit mode for whatever mesh you last had active, is how I think it works. Anyways, so let's show how this might work in a real workflow. So what you would do is you would refresh. So you have your object, right? You would refacet it however you want. I'm using n-gons and then pretty high density. And here's our mesh, right? And then for the UV by islands, I would mark by angle with Zen sets, or if you're in a more modern version of Blender, you can see that I'm on 3.12 because I'm a caveman. When you refacet in modern plasticity, or I'm sorry, in modern Blender, it'll actually come in with sharps, and you can select these by sharpness and then mark your seams and then do your unwrap. So give me a second, catch my breath. I'm gonna go unconscious. Okay. So with Zen sets, I would literally just, or I'm sorry, Zen UV, I would mark by angle, double tap U. Let's see here. Is this crashing? Okay, there we go. And then assign by UV. And now you can see this is one of the reasons why polygroup by normals fails in ZBrush, and why I don't really like using it for this sort of thing, or why just marking things by sharp sometimes fails. It's because you don't always have obvious sharps, or things will artifact. It's actually kind of what inspired this mesh. Is even playing with all these, I couldn't fix this. If you have any guidance, please let me know. But what I could do now to fix this is I can, circle select this. Oh, hold on a second. And unmark. It should be good. Or more realistically, what I would do is use the plasticity faces to get what I want. Another thing that's cool is one of the limitations of using the select plasticity faces and edges is that once I mirror this, it will actually break. Or if I don't really want to be remeshing with this because this is broken. So like what I can do is I can do this, and then let's see if I can grid fill this. That'd be nice. And then this is a little bit cleaner, and obviously I can do a lot of cleanup. But the problem is once you start editing things, I don't know if it'll break in this case. Yeah, this has started to kind of fall apart. It's still okay here. No, this is broken though. Whereas if I go back far enough, now, oh, oops. And now this is proper again. So my point is, what's nice about the UV materials is that I can start assigning materials like that instead of using the plasticity faces. But okay, so now I have this as my base, right? I'm actually just going to go back I'm going to start fresh. So we're doing by UV islands. And you can see our seams weren't complete everywhere because when you mark by sharp, you're just not going to catch some of these transitions naturally. That's kind of to be expected. That's not a big deal. But now I can do like coplanar, or I guess I wouldn't have to do coplanar. I can use the plasticity edges, or faces rather. Let's see some other areas. Like here's a good one. I kind of want to separate these loops. Another one is good. So this up here would be like, I don't know if I want these all to be their own islands. That's going to cause issues. I can just select each one of these faces once, and now I have, you know, one big group. I don't actually know if that would be ideal for quadrant mesh. I don't think it would be, but it's just kind of a demo of what you could do to clean these up. Or, like I said, you go back in here, or you can also like come in here. And once I already have this material, if I want these to be one clean thing, I can assign material slot. Oh wait, no. Why aren't you working? That should work. Oh, I see what's going. Right, I'm a doofus. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself. You need to actually have this whole thing selected. I was just assigning individual faces, right? And so now I can start cleaning this up. It's very similar to the way you would do UV islands. So that's kind of some good guidance. Let me do something else here. I'm just going to bring this back in, refacet it, because I want to show you how you can work with the paint plasticity faces. This can be a little bit awkward because, like, if I come in here and I do this, like, that's not really that obvious from how this all looks. So what you can actually do before you do this is, you know, turn the metallic up and the roughness down, and you can kind of start seeing these a little bit better. And we can turn our, or actually, you know, it's probably better to have this up. I mean, it really doesn't matter. The whole point is, because we almost have like this clown mask thing going on in both methods, we want to differentiate these. And so this will just let you see your plasticity faces if you want to do the hand painting way. Some other notes here real quick. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Like I had previously said, or maybe I didn't say it, what can happen is if you do this, okay, you can see like I can't actually see that face. That's because this doesn't start you off with a default slot. That's something I'm going to put in a future version of the script. But until then, it's just functioning the way it is. I think you'll be able to figure this out. It's not a big deal. The same thing happens with the create random material for selection. But now you can see it works, as long as you have the one slot. Some quick notes on installing. So if you're interested in this, I have a little zip. This is Akane's material tools for now. It's actually 3 separate add-ons. You will have to install these separately because I haven't figured out how to consolidate them. I'm pretty sure I can just plug that into Claude and tell them to consolidate them into one add-on, but I want to have a better game plan on how to handle that before I do. So this will be a Google Doc file in the video description that you can download. You'll just extract it. Where did that go? Boop, 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 boop. I don't know where that extracted to. Maybe it just overwrote this. I'm not sure. But it's there, right? I think that's basically it. I guess the last thing I want to say is this is written by Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's pretty capable, and actually one sec. Pretty well documented, relatively speaking. There's a lot of notes on what things are doing. Claude does explain himself across the course of the scripts. Actually, I think this is a better example. Yeah, you should give it a read, basically, if you're on the worried side. I have tested this with Blender 3.1, 4.2, and 4.3. Everything seems to be working pretty well. I guess the last thing is just a note on polygon performance. It does work. really well in high polygons, actually. As long as, I mean, if you're unwrapping a 12 million triangle mesh, that can be problematic, obviously. But as long as you already have the UVs, it works pretty well. Like it doesn't even take a very long time. And I think that's because it's using the UV islands as its underlying logic. Regarding Blender 4.2 and 4.3, currently Eevee has some hang-ups when creating shaders. It's pretty noticeable coming from 3.1. That's because I guess Eevee's shaders are more complex. So if you're getting a hang-up in your modern version of Blender, it should go away, after a couple of minutes. It's just your system hanging up doing shader compilation. That's not an issue with the add-on. So I guess that's probably everything. So again, I'm Akane. You can hit me up on Discord in the Plasticity Discord or comment in the YouTube video. If you have any suggestions for the scripts, I'm definitely going to be making changes and compiling these into future add-on. Thank you very much for your time. I hope the tools help you create awesome art. Bye.